So, last time we've seen the weapon manager, now it's time for the AK handler. Before we see the AK handler, I want to go a little bit on the state manager and let's see the variables, only the variables, and then we're going to see the behavior, just so that we know what we want to work with. And this is the AK handler, so we'll return in a bit. Okay, health is dead. So if you are following along, you can write just a class, just these variables. You won't need any of the functions, and we'll cover the functions in their own video for the controller. I think it's probably the next one. So health is dead. The model prefab and model rig that they're actually created when we start the game. If we're in game, of course, if this is the player, this has to do with the controller, and we went over all of this in the, except the cover direction, in the advanced third-person controller. Okay, so I do not have anything to say about them. We will see them when it's time. And this has to be about speed. Anyway, we're not interested in that. What's more interesting is this. Basically what we need is this and this. And I think, this has to do with the controller. Okay, the variables we're going to need, and mainly can aim if we are aiming, if we are shooting. Okay, obstacle forward, ground angle. Again, this has to do with the controller, which means I've covered them in the advanced third person controller. However, we are going to use them slightly different from over here. However, okay, can aim, main shoulder is left. This will always be false, but if you want to make this to like switch your weapon by holding it from the right, being the main hand, the right hand, and switching it to the left, then you will do so when you turn this. You can turn this through. Okay, this is not in. I'm not going to bother adding it in, but basically just copying everything we have on the right hand and changing sides and making basically the X value on the opposite of what it is. And reloading, switching weapon, and hold can cover and cover. Okay, this doesn't have to do with anything that we're seeing in this video. Shooting, okay, and pretty much that's it. So ignore the rest, we're going to see them again in their own video. So let's go to the AK handler. Now, before we see the actual script, let's cover a bit how the system works. So I'm going to go into my scenes. Okay, we're going to start the game. I'm actually going to place to make it half and half. Let's start. Campaign, new game. I'm going to hit escape and let me find my controller. Okay, and let me unlock my cursor. So, okay, normally we only have the left hand enabled over here. When I aim, what happens is, okay, we have a pivot from over here where you can see the right line, and the pivot basically looks where we're aiming, or basically where the camera falls. In this case, the very center of this. If it doesn't hit something, then it just defaults to a point. I think it's about either 50, and that's about 50, or 20 points away from us. Now, the secret to this is that the aim pivot actually has three empty game objects are children, which is the right hand AK, the left hand AK, and the head target, which the head target should be somewhere around over here. Okay, so when we move this and when we rotate, in any way we want to rotate. Basically it takes with us all of the AK, so that means we can aim left or right. And let's open this up. Okay, head target, which is where the head is going to look when we are aiming. It's not where we are actually aiming. We'll make it so that, you know, it looks a little bit more dramatic. The main hand and the offhand. The offhand aim actually, yeah, we have the offhand aim, but the actual offhand aim is inside the helper for the right hand. Okay, so I'm going to pause and let's go to the controller, right hand helper. Okay, this is the actual one we are using. This one is just for mostly, so yeah, as I said in the previous video, if you target it to this, you might see it, you know, you might see the left hand dragging. So I think parent it under the right hand helper is just best. Okay, and also ignore what if you see some jerking in the editor scene, it's not actually showing on the game scene. Okay, and yeah, it still counts the same as I said, that the main hand, that basically because we have our offhand parented under the main hand, okay, in this case the right hand helper, then it still works like they were exactly under the same game object. Now another thing that I've added for this series is that the pivot isn't actually one thing. Okay, so the pivot doesn't is not on a fixed position. So when you are looking up, okay, you will see that the weapon is not going to directly look up. It's actually going to move down, and when you are looking down, it's actually going to bring it up. So it kind of does something like this, or yeah, something close to this. So it's not a full, it's not an actual arch, it actually moves. And to actually see this, we can see that, okay, you can see that the red line moves from another way. And we can control this from the weapon stats, or the weapon stats we've seen already. Okay, you can see that. And we do this because we do not want, when we look up, especially on a higher angle, we do not want to have the weapon right onto our face. Okay, so with this we have a little of better naturalistic gesture. Let's go with that, or let's call it that. Okay, so that's basically the AK, and everything else that has to do with this is basically when we close and when we enable the AK, and that's what we do with the AK handler. And of course every weapon will have its own AK positions and its own AK settings. So you can see that because this is way too high, okay, this might need a little bit adjustment from the weapon settings. You can see that it overextends his weapon. To fix that, it's very simple. We're going into, let's put this up, and we're going to go into our prefabs. We're going to go into our weapons on the B8, okay, weapon stats, and you can see that the offsets, okay, offset on the Z is 0.1. That means the higher it can go, it's going to go at 0.1 offset from the base value you have. So you can do something like 0.2 or close it entirely so it will only move on the Y scale. And let's actually see this also on the Y scale. Okay, you can see that it's yeah, maybe the pistol doesn't need that much. However, yeah, if you see his shoulder, it kind of looks too much overextended, like it's too stiff. Okay, so it's missing a little bit, especially on the left hand, as you can see. So we do not want to do that, we want to have something more. So I'm going to just put -1 and let's just put 0.5, so it's going to be half of what it was before. Now, of course, this is mostly for the rifles. Like we've seen, the pistols don't really need to adjust that much the angle. Okay, so this is a little bit slightly better. Of course, feel free to change it to whatever you want. And the other thing we're going to see is the recoil curves. Okay, this you have to adjust on the prefab, as we said on the previous videos. Let's go into the script. Okay, the transform we have seen, and the offhand aim, we are not going to use it, but let's just skip it. Offhand idle, main hand, head target, and a head helper. The head helper actually helps, I know, right? It's going to be the same way we had it on the Redux series. It's basically we're going to lerp from an aim position to another aim position, so that we do not clamp directly towards where we want to look at. Public book close all, as you can imagine, it closes everything. Aim pivot is your actual aim pivot. So basically it follows your shoulder with an offset. The target shoulder. The aim helper is actually what lerps. The head helper, I think, just lerps if you are not aiming. Okay, the head helper will lerp towards your aim position, and if you are aiming, then it's going to go and lerp back to what you have on your weapon. Animator, the state manager, of course, and the right shoulder offset. Okay. Main weight, target main weight, main hand weight, target main hand weight, the offset off hand weight, the target off hand weight, the weight speed, how fast we change weights, head weight, body weight, the weight T, when we lerp all this, close AK, close head AK, and use head target AK. I'm actually not, I don't think I'm using this. Yeah, I'm just passing it through the weapons, but I've never actually used this to close it. So this has to do, if you want, in case you want to disable the head AK just for a specific weapon, then you can enable this and just add it in the code. It's not inside the code right now. And the current head position, you can imagine the current head position. And if we want to override our rotation, which we do in some cases, which we do not do in any case, so ignore this, you can delete it. And the weight curve, yeah, we also do not need this. These were, so let's delete them. They were from something else, from some other experiments. Let's make sure that it actually plays. Okay, no errors, we are good. Now, when we initialize, of course we need to pass the state manager. We already have the state manager since we initialize this from inside the state manager. So we simply pass it also. We pass the reference, we pass the animator, we create our helpers and the aim helpers. We set up our weight. You most likely want to start with the offhand weight as 1. And the current head position, we need to initialize it first so that we do not, get there's going to be a little bit of a few seconds or a few frames that your head is going to look whenever, or basically at the vector 3.0. And what also you can do is on the aim position, basically do the same. So it will also, the first frame, it won't make the character look in the vector 3.0 position. Now, create helpers. In it for editor, I believe this is also something old. Yeah, we do not need this. Load weapon, we will need. Tick. Okay, create helpers. Okay, we're basically creating all our transforms we're going to need. We have our aim pivot, we have our main hand. Obviously we need to find the target shoulder from the animator, so that means that the animator needs to have been previously initialized, okay, so that we can have an actual transform to pass over here. And aim pivot, main hand, we also change the names, okay, and the head helpers. We're going to set the aim pivot position. Of course, it's going to be the target shoulder position, and the main hand, the parent of the main hand, is going to be, of course, the aim pivot. We're going to reset. These are some default values. Okay, these are taken directly from the editor. So this is just in case you never load an actual weapon. It's going to default in these values. You do not have to write any of these values. You can just write them, or just ignore all of this, since the next frame or a little bit later inside the code we just load the weapon, so it's just going to override all of this. So in theory you don't even need this. This is just to have something to start to work with, or basically when you are debugging or stuff like that. And again, the same with the offhand parent, but you can see that instead of getting parenting under the aim pivot, I just parent it under the right hand. Now we have again, it stays the same with this, and then we set up our offhand parent aim. Okay, it's going to go under the aim pivot, local position, offhand idle, local rotation. This might actually not be needed, because I think a little bit after this I'm parenting it under the bone helper, so keep in mind that this might not actually be needed. Of course, they are no problem either, so we do not have to worry about it. And then the create aim helper, redundantly it's inside its own function. We could have just used the create helpers, just another transform, and we're placing it over there. Now let's go back to the init. We've seen this. Okay, the next thing is going to run. Let's see where this is called from. Okay, from the state manager it loads then the weapon manager, and this is going to add or find the weapon manager. And after we do this inside the state manager, we call everything and we initialize the bone helpers, and I think somewhere the weapon manager actually inits from here, from inside the input handler, which we haven't seen yet. But what it does, it initializes the state manager, which means it's going to initialize the weapon handler. However, we want to have control over our weapon manager because we want to override our weapons and add them inside the list. Okay, so it's going to initialize on the next frame, and when the next frame actually initializes, which is the weapon manager, okay, creates your weapons, and it's going to try and see if you have any mods, of course, and then switch delay. It's also initialize this. When this creates your weapons, as we have seen, set active weapon. So this, it's going to come over here. It's going to remove or set holster if you have any previous active weapon, and over here it's what it's calling. You can see that loads the weapon inside the AK handler and loads the position, loads the main hand position, rotation, rotation again, name position, and offhand. So what we need to see is load the weapon inside the AK handler. Okay, I hope this wasn't confusing. I'm just showing you the execution order because it's important to know, because there is no this is the update. Okay, but it doesn't go straight from init to update. from start, we've run other parts of the code. We need to overwrite or load any settings we might have, and then again come over here and load the stuff we need. Load the weapon. Okay, we pass the runtime weapon we create for each weapon we want to load, and we're basically calling the function to set head position, which is simply this, just changes the local position to position. I have them in different functions just in case I want to switch something, or if I want to switch something from another script, I can do it directly. And if I want to add more behaviors over here, I can add them. But in most cases you can see that they are pretty bare bones, so that means they are just using them as, you know, as setters. And yeah, I guess we can go and see them in a bit. We've set the animator, in the animator the set integer, the weapon type we have, well, this is the name weapon type, which is the name of the integer, and the animation set we have onto our weapon we have saved. Okay, it's going to come into your animator and change the weapon type over here. And the weapon type, okay, you can, the animator, you can download it with the animations and I think also the character from the previous video. Okay, and so basically what this, it's either going to play this or this. You can see that our animator has 3 layers. Base layer is everything that has to do with movement. The arms is basically everything that has to do with aiming. So you either play the rifle animation or the pistol idle. And when you are aiming, you're basically just staying where you are. Basically, you are moving to the empty scene because you do not want to play anything. This will handle, this will be enough, and you will have the IK basically place the hands where it wants to. And yeah, okay, and the weapon type basically is going to select you're either playing this branch or you're either playing this branch. And use head target, whatever we have from there, but anyway, we do not need this. So let's go down to the, and I think these aren't even needed also. Yeah, these probably are not needed also. We will see in a bit. Let's see the setters, which is inside this. Yeah, there's no region for them. Set head position, we've seen it. We pass a position and we change the local position. Set head weight, we pass the weight we want, and it's just going to assign it for the weight. Set lookout position, of course, we assign whatever you have on your head target. Main hand position, just changes the local position, just changes the local Euler angles. Parentage under the correct or where you want it, and this is where I said, I think, yeah, and this is where I said we parent it under our bone. Okay, this is the right hand helper. You can find it from over here. And yeah, not over here, we want to go over here. Okay, parent it and fixes the local position. Again, the aim position, which we're not using, but anyway. The offset position, it just updates the right shoulder position, and set offhand rotation. If we're aiming, you can pass the local, it either going to update the Euler angles based on the rotation you are passing. Yeah, but as I said, this will not run. So basically these two lines also are not even needed. Let's go to the IK handler. I'm keeping them in because, as I said, you might want to modify them. We're going to see recoil in a bit. Let's make sure we cover everything else. So we were over here on initialize and load weapon. We've seen the setter functions we have. On update, which is tick, which we call from the weapon manager, handle weights, recoil actual, and we update the bone helpers, so it places our bone helpers where our actual bones are. On late tick, we're going to do another pass on the bone helper, just in case we are missing it, or well, not just in case, because it might look like it's dragging. So with this, we can be sure. We can check if we are aiming. Okay, we have a boolean to see if we can actually aim, and we're going to see that if we are on locomotion, or basically if our animator state says that it's not on locomotion, which that will happen when you are actually, when you are everywhere except here and here. Okay, when you are on mid-air and while aiming too. Okay, so if you're not in any of these three states, then that means you cannot aim, so return false. And then we're going to look for the angle. So we're going to look where is the angle between our aiming position and where we are actually looking, our own transform.forward. And if it's higher than 25, which because our character will always look towards the same position as the camera, that means if that angle is higher than 25, of course you can tweak the threshold a bit, that means you are moving your camera way too fast, so that means if we kept the AK open, it will just break his hands and it will break the whole effect. So if you are moving and turning the camera too fast, it's going to simply make him lower his weapon, and he's going to raise it again when he's inside the range we have over here. Okay, very simple. The other reason why we cannot hit or we cannot shoot, okay, this is entirely optional. It's we're basically doing a raycast in front of us, in front of our pivot actually, and if we hit something, then return false. So that means if you are aiming, and let's actually see it, if you are aiming with a rifle or a pistol and you are really close to the wall, okay, I'm not in cover right now. Well, if I'm somewhere like this, I'm not in cover, and I go and the aim pivot of course hits the wall, then it makes him lower his pistol. Okay, that does. If you do not want it, then simply remove this. Otherwise, you can shoot, you are clear to shoot, then return. Now, handle weights. We will start with target weight. Both of our head target weight and body target weight, we will start every frame with 0, and we're just going to get the multiplier start as 1. We're going to check what our animator says if we want to close the AK or if we want to just close the head AK. We keep this separate because there's a few cases that you want to close the head AK, but still keep the right hand AK. Now, or the left hand AK, or all of your AKs basically. And the next thing we're going to see, if in our states we cannot aim, we control this by this function we've just seen. And if we say in our states that we are aiming and it's clear that we can actually aim, then the head target weight and the target main hand weight will be 1. Notice that I do not have the left hand AK over here because it can default, where in most cases you want to default it as 1. Okay, and we're going to set the body target weight at 0 because we have set everything up with the angle compensation and all that. Okay, there's no need to have anything on our body anymore, so it will work best if you have your body target weight at 0. And if you notice in other AAA games, then this also happens, that there's slightly or even at all body movement, because it kind of can't break your animation. But there's a few cases that it's used creatively. Now, if we're not aiming and we're not running, head target weight will be 1 and body target weight will be 0.15. So this will make your character look where you are aiming, and this will also make him slightly tilt his body. Otherwise, if you are running, we want everything close, because the running, by running I mean the sprint, okay, where you have to hold the shift down. We just want to close everything down, and the target main hand weight will be 0 and multiplier will be 2, so that means double the speed of when we are active. States in cover. If we are in cover, we want to have everything closed, but if we are aiming, we again want to open it up. If we want to close the AK, we basically set everything at 0 and multiplier will be 5. Otherwise, we only open the offset weight and left everything else, open it when we want to. And we want to close the head AK, we simply override the head target weight. If we want to close everything, or we are in vaulting, okay, we do again the same, and you can see that, yeah, I could have just used this, to be honest. So this might also be a little bit more redundant, but anyway, let's just keep it. And finally, after all of these updates, which basically handles when we want to wait and where we do not want to wait, we're going to add into our weight T, and we're going to set up our weight with a lerp. Okay, head weight, body weight, and I've actually think yeah, I actually think that I do not reset this somewhere. Interesting. Oh no, yeah, we do not need to reset it since we keep adding it. Anyway, okay, this is what we're going to do now. We lerp, of course, the weight from main hand weight to the target main weight, okay, with this, and we apply the. Now let's close the handle weights. On animator move, we only call the handle shoulder. On animator move is a function that is from mono behavior, okay, and to use this, it basically runs every time the animator is going to run. It's basically the update of the animator. You can think of it like that. So it will only run, and it runs automatically whenever there is an animation. To use this, you need to have your script in the same game object as your animator. So let's hit play. I'm going to go into the game, but I'm going to just leave it over here in case we need to test something. Okay, because I have my AK handler over here, the same game object with the animator, not in a child. Okay, it's exactly like using the on animator AK basically. But first it runs the on animator move, and then it runs the AK handler, and that order is important because we're going to place first. We need to make sure that our shoulder is at the correct position, so then the AK positions is going to be correct. What we do with the shoulder, we basically call another function which is handle shoulder position, and what this is doing is what calculates the angle compensation, and what also calculates the offset of your you know, from the aim pivot from your own shoulder. So what I did over here, I basically break this whole thing apart. Of course, I can write this in a single vector 3 without using a new. Okay, however, I believe that you'll have a little bit easier time to read this than having everything in over here. Okay, if you feel confident, then you can just take all of this and replace it with this. Of course, put them in the parentheses. Okay, so what we're doing, we're basically taking a local offset, okay, its value of this, and we're multiplying it with the world offset. And we only want to affect the Z, the X, and the Y separately from everything else. And then we create our final position, which will be all of these things combined, and our own target shoulder position. And we'll go and assign our aim pivot is going to be our final position. So it's the local offset turned into world position plus our target shoulder position. So you're saying from our own transfer forward how many in the Z you're going to have. Now this is the angle compensation. So what we're doing is we're finding the cross product between our own transfer forward and the aim pivot transfer forward, so basically where it's looking, and we either assign -1 or 1. So if our cross product is lower than 0, then that means it's -1. We need to find our current angle from where we're actually looking and where the aim pivot is looking. So basically think of them, if this is your, or yeah, probably should be better if we go over here. Okay, you can see that the aim line is this, and this is our ground line. This will always be constant, okay? The angle for this, it's never going to change, even if your character is in an angle. And what we are looking for is the difference between the aim pivot angle, so if it is looking upwards or down from our own transfer forward. Okay, so very simple. So basically looking for this angle, and we find this from over here. We're using transfer forward because it's easier, it's the easiest way you can find, you know, you can find zero, a line 0 from your aim pivot, okay, and that's why I'm using transfer forward. We need to scale it, so we take the current angle and we subdivide by 35, and you can change, of course, the 35, and we multiply our current angle with our sine, so we need to know if we're going up or down. Okay, if it's positive or negative, because your current angle, the angle, will only give you positive numbers. However, because we have our cross product, we can simply make this negative. The other way we can do this is by using the mathf2 attenuation. You won't need to have you won't need to have you won't need to basically find the cross product. Okay, either way you want to work with, it's okay. We've seen the mathf attenuation be used on the climb system, and the scale is basically because we want to turn the angle. Okay, if this is 35, the values we want to work with, we do not want to work, you know, from 0 to 35, because these values are useless to us. We want to work with values 0 to 1, and of course if the cross product is negative, to -1. Okay, and because we can take this value, which the higher can be 1, and multiply it by the offset we have on our weapon. Okay, and yeah, that's it. That's about the scale. If you want to have a bigger angle, then you simply need to change the 35 to the angle you want. But keep in mind that this goes for both ways, okay, both up and down. We find our current angle. We are making it either positive or negative, and then our current y, the offset for our y, will take our scale, what we have over here, multiply it by the offset scale we have saved inside our weapon. Same for the z. Okay, and we're going to basically apply for the y value, because we want, when we are looking up, we want to basically lower the weapon. Okay, so what we're going to actually do is, again, turn the y we have, turn it into world space. Well, okay, because it's the up vector, it wouldn't really, yeah, it actually will matter, because the aim pivot doesn't have a constant up. Okay, we are going to apply the negative value of this, okay, so that he lowers down his weapon. And for the z value, we're just going to apply it as it is. We're turning it again into world position, and then we're going to apply our final position to the aim pivot. Obviously, you can just take the final position from, instead of applying it over here, you can just take it and apply it over here. Okay, either way you're doing it doesn't really matter, since it's only an addition. If you feel that, you know, your target platform can handle one more addition, then yeah, potatoes are not really our target demographic. And okay, so this is for the shoulder position. The next thing we need to worry about is the rotation. And the rotation, the same way as we did on the Redux, we have our aim helper, and we learn from its current position to the target position. The target position in this case is going to be whatever we have as aim position into our state manager. Okay, and we move by this. The aim helper speed is, I have it 18. If you have it higher, then the faster the aim helper is going to, and in theory, the faster your character can aim. However, it also depends on how fast he can actually rotate. I believe 18 is just enough. And again, we're going to find the direction we want to look, and that will be from the aim helper to our aim pivot. We check if this is 0, then we assign our forward, we create the rotation, and then we rotate with the spherical lerp from our aim pivot rotation to the target rotation by time delta time multiplied by the shoulder rotate speed. And the shoulder rotate speed is again how fast your actual shoulder rotates. 5 works for me, change it if it doesn't work for you. Simple as that. So, handle shoulder, we've seen our position, we've seen our rotation. The head target will be our aim position. Unless we are aiming, then the head target will be the head target position we have saved from our weapon. And over here we're going to do a lerp from the target position, and we're going to move the head helper to go to the target position, which can either be the aim position or the head target we have on our weapon. Okay, simple enough. Handle shoulder, create helper, create aim helper, current Y and Z, I think we've seen this, yeah, and it has to do with the shoulder position. Shoulder rotation, we've seen it, and again, after we've run the on animator move, it plays on animator OK. So on animator again, on animator move again, it places the pivot, or which is our shoulder, in the correct position. So that means we are free with the AK to place basically our bones on the corrected position. Okay, we set up the look at weight first. We'll start as 1, body weight, head weight 1 and 1. The current head position will be the head helper. We set up the lookup position again to be the current head position, and we have main hand, okay, will be the main weight, and off-hand okay will be the off-hand weight. So main hand okay, what it does, it comes over here and sets up the okay position, okay, the avatar okay goal. In our case, we only have the right hand, will always be the main hand. But if you want to switch it again, with that said, you know, holding it on the left, then you're going to write your code that instead of the right hand, it passes the left hand. Okay, so this is very simple. You pass the weight, pass the position, pass the weight for the rotation, pass the rotation. However, the offhand okay, it's again the same, but for the target, you can see that I had some other tests, and around over here I decided that I only wanted to use the offhand idle. Okay, so this is only always going to assign the target or weight. Basically, let's just do it like this so that we do not waste memory on a new target. Okay, a very simple offhand okay. So pretty much, if you want, you can pass a transform over here too, so you can just make this and this the same function, but I'll let you judge if you want to do that. So this has to do with the okay. So with all of this, you can actually aim up and down, you know, left and right, and all that. Now we're going to see the procedural recoil. Okay, we're going to need a few values: a recoil T, offset position, the offset rotation, base position, and base rotation. If we have initialized a recoil and our current active weapon. When we want to play the recoil animation, we're going to call this, which we call from the weapon manager when we're actually shooting. Okay, we've seen this on the previous video. And we want to first initialize a recoil. If there is a case that you're playing a recoil animation and you want to play another one before the other one then is finished, then you're simply going to ignore the second one. Okay, so there is no overlapping to this. And basically what it is changing or adding an offset to our current local positions and local rotations. Because our left hand is parented under the main hand, that means we only need to care about the main hand. Okay, so basically we start what we want, we save what we want, base rotation, base position, and the active weapon, which we pass from over here, and we say that we have initialized our weapon. Since the recoil actual is inside the update loop, and it says that the recoil is initialized, then it's going to take the recoil T, it's going to add by time to delta time, and if the recoil T is higher than 1, it's going to reset it. And here we have our Y direction, our Z direction. So we evaluate the curves we have into our weapons, which is over here. Okay, you will see that on the first frame it's just going to apply nothing. Over here it's just going to apply the offset you pass over in here. And if you can read this, this is 0.05. Okay, because this is applied as actual position, it's how much of a centimeters you want your hand to go up and down. Okay, pretty clear. And you can see the fall off. So this is basically how your animation is going to play. It's almost like using the curve editor, you know, in Maya or Blender or whatever. Let's go back. So we take what we have saved into our recoil. We evaluate by the recoil T, well, into our curve basically. We take that as a value, as a raw value. We multiply it by our own up and our own forward, and that's it. In case we want to offset the rotation, we do almost exactly the same. However, we want, well, you can either add the opposite over here, or you can add the opposite in the actual curve, whichever you prefer. We have a right, we'll multiply it by 90, because the values, well, it's actually how the quaternions is going to work with. Okay, because this is going to take the 1 and multiply it by your t, which is going to be something inside the 0 point values. And however, because you look like this, so that means you are on the, I think this is the x, yeah, it's the x value, so that means you are rotated. For example, let's take a capsule. Okay, we have a capsule. If I want to rotate this to look towards over here, we're just add 90. So the offset we're going to add is 90 point, if we have 0.5, it's going to be 0.5, which of course does nothing. And I think this is actually going to be 1, which is going to return us 90 by recoil t. Maybe, oh no, it's going to be 90 by multiplied by 0.5. Okay, so something like that. However, yeah, it works better because it's inside the M pivot, and because the right hand works like that. Okay, so that is why we add the 90 over here. Anyway, we fix our offset position, which is basically taking our y and z and putting them inside one variable, and we change the main hand local position, and we also add our local lower angles, base rotation and offset rotation. Okay, so this is the procedural recoil. And the IK helper, again, we do not need this, so let's delete it and be done with this. So that's it. That's pretty much it for the IK handler. And next, I believe, yeah, on the next video, we're actually going to go and see what we need to do with the controller. Now, there is also, where from the script inside the handle weight function, which is, where it is, handle weights. Okay, we have this, where we control the IK, and these two variables change from the animator, as I said. And basically, when you want to have something to close one IK, we do this with keep bool. These are animator state behaviors. Keep bool is basically instead of not only on the on state tender, on state update, it's just going to keep changing the boolean and basically keeping it at the status you want. And we do this because sometimes you might change a boolean, but because it's side in the transition, and you might have something else over here that changes the boolean again, you might be caught up inside the transition, so you might get an error, or you might not be able to use the IK, or it will not automatically enable the IK because this call has passed. Okay, so we do not want to do that. So the easiest way to fix this is just making sure that it will always stay closed for as long as this animation state is playing. In this case, we want to close the IK because this is the reload. Okay, again, this is the reload. And on rifle, we basically keep the in idle. This, where it is, in this in idle state, we keep this open because we check it for for the other stuff we're doing with our controller. Okay, so this is the animator state behavior. We pass the name the status you want it to be, and reset on exit. And on state enter, you just do this, and if you have reset on exit, then you simply, well, reset it. You do the opposite. So where these are used, on rifle switch, close OK. On empty we have nothing. In idle, when we are rifle idle and pistol idle, okay, status and reset on exit. In rifle reload, close OK. In pistol reload, close OK. Pistol switch, close OK. In override all, climb up height, you can see that we do quite a stuff. So we have on locomotion, close OK. We do not need this, so let's remove it. And close head OK. Okay, cover pick, we're actually not doing, oh. Yeah, I think we're not using it, and death we're not using. You see that this are in, you have 3, so that means it's going to call this function 3 times. Obviously, you can just make all of this into a single script and use an array of strings, and update all of them from one simple script. Okay, it depends on what you want to do, of course. If you want to keep things more fluid, so if you want to change stuff, you can leave it like this. But if you want to be a little bit more optimized, then by all means make all this into one script. And let's see where else we're using this. Change bool animator state behavior. Okay, change bool only does on state and on exit instead of doing it and also on state update. Okay, on locomotion, the special, you close it over here. Stop, we've seen this in the advanced third person controller. Okay, we will see this also over here. We will go through this, but what we're after is the on locomotion and on sprint status volt overrun. Okay, to stop, we've seen this. There's nothing here. On locomotion, we're closing it, and yeah, the same stuff as we have onto our advanced third person controller, and we do not use this jump into this controller. So you are done. Okay, so if you just make sure you have the correct animator state behaviors into all your states. So just go again with a video and make sure you have them. Otherwise you might have a few bugs. Okay, you can have the animator, you can find it of course in the description of the previous video, and I think I might add it in this one also. But anyway, I know for a fact that is on the weapon creator video is there. It's in the description. So yeah, that's it. Next one, we're going to actually go with the controller and the user input, the actual state manager, and we're going to break it again with some controller extras and stuff like that. So the next one will be kind of going again stuff we did on the advanced third person controller, but we're also going to see the changes and anything else we might need to add, and then we're almost done, and then we're going to focus on the objectives, the items, and everything else. So you know what to do: like, subscribe, share, and if you also like to see more and you want to support me because I'm doing a damn fine job, then you can do so on Patreon or on Gumroad. Okay, and I'll see you next time.